At Regional, there were a couple of teams that played their queens very early in the game. So this lesson is to give you an idea of what are some of the things you can do if your opponent tries to move their queen out too early in the game. Usually when your opponent moves their queen out too early in the game, they're planning on doing the matrix. And if you see the queen move out on the second move or the third move, it's usually a pretty good idea to what your opponent's up to. And if your opponent moves their queen to h5, then move the knight to c6, and then usually bishop to c4 will be the next move, which will eventually lead here to make the matrix. So black just moves the pawn up one. Queen moves here to f3, and even in this position, white can still do the matrix by moving the queen to f7. So black will simply block. Now, the queen has still been moved early in the game, so there's still some things that you can do. Let's say that white then decides to develop by moving a knight here to, let's say, c3. The best move to do in this position, and usually I tell chess players not to move the same piece more than once in the opening, but in this position it's actually okay because you're attacking the queen and setting up a little bit of a trap depending on how white plays. So if black moves here now to d4, it puts an attack on the white queen. Now the white queen cannot move there, and the white queen cannot move there, and I would assume that most players would probably not want to retreat their queen all the way back to the first row, which is actually what the best move is in this position. But I'm going to guess that white might do something like this. And if white does something like that, do you see a great fork that black can do? If you said moving the knight here to c2, you are correct. Forking the king and the rook, and when white moves their king out of the way, black takes the rook for free. Let's say that we're going back to this position again where black is attacking white's queen. Let's say if the white queen decided to go here, what would you do? Same thing. Attack the king, and now there's a royal family fork. That knight is attacking the king, queen, and rook at the same time. If the king moves out of the way, or when the king moves out of the way, you can get a scalp for a rook, or for a knight. Now back to the same position. If white were to protect the c2 square by moving the queen to d3, what you would do with black is move the c pawn up to c6, and we'll say that white then develops the knight to f3. What would be the great move for black here? And the answer is moving the black pawn up to d5, and now the white bishop on c4 is going to be trapped. The best move for white in this position is moving the bishop here to b3. But if white were to go ahead and capture a pawn, you could recapture here. I suppose white could take there, but then there would just be a lot of stuff going on, and black would actually end up being ahead in that position. If we were to go back here again, the best move is to put the bishop right here. Again, white can push the pawn up. Black might think that they're safe, white might think that they're safe and possibly move the bishop over here, but then you can still continue to trap that bishop. All of this just because the queen was developed too early in the game.